guys, and welcome back to another video. My name's Destiny. I do all kinds of things here. And today I'm going to do a review for you guys. I don't do very many of these on my channel, at least not with me talking. Usually they're on my blog, which I will link below. But today I really wanted to go ahead and sit and just kind of talk to you guys. As you can see, I have a sleepy tree frog. And yes, she's in just her diaper. Our house is a little warm right now for her. And so if I put clothes on her, she screams. And we don't make the baby scream. Enid likes the baby happy, we do. So being in mommy's arms right now, sleeping makes her happy. So I figured I would do a video where I didn't have to hold up the book the entire time, and I didn't have to hold up multiple books. Once I get her asleep and lay her down, I'll probably film some more, but right now that's what we're going to do. If you can see the bottle in the frame, I do not apologize. I made her a bottle in case she wants it here in a second. We started crying, and usually it means we want a bottle, but now we seem pretty content sleeping, so we're going to let us sleep, and I'm going to readjust. Okay, so today I will be reviewing The Invisible Life by Elin Harris. Elin Harris. Baby Jesus, I can't even talk. So this book was suggested to me by a good friend. She has read everything he's written and absolutely loved him. I put it in past tense. Okay. Sorry, we had to get a bottle. I put that in past tense because he has passed away. But The Invisible Life revolves around Raymond, and Raymond didn't know he was bisexual until later in life. So the book starts out with Raymond a senior in college. He has a girlfriend. He seems very happy with his life. He's part of a fraternity, just living a good college life. And one night he ends up going to a party with his girlfriend for his frat through the party. And he sees this guy standing across the way. He can't get him out of his mind. He can't realize. He doesn't know why. He ends up dreaming about him a little later, and he just can't figure out why this random person's on his mind. He ends up he goes away for school for something. I can't remember exactly what. It's been a little bit since I read it. And comes back and ends up meeting up with the stranger in the locker room. Come to find out, his name is Kelvin. Kelvin is new. He is on their football team, and he's from Philadelphia. Him and Kelvin end up striking up a conversation, riding to the next town over, kind of like my little town. They were a dry county, so they had to go to the next town over to get any beer or liquor or anything like that. And so by the time they get back, they share a beer, and they end up going to Brian's apartment, and lo and behold, they end up sleeping together. Now, Raymond, he goes by Ray in the book. Ray is very confused. He's never slept with a man before. Nothing like that has ever happened to him before, and the story kind of takes off from there. It is definitely a story of Ray discovering himself and coming to terms with that he may be bisexual, and that's okay for him to be bisexual. That's okay for him to want a relationship with a man and a woman. Not at the same time, obviously, but it's not a huge deal for him to have a relationship with a man and then have a relationship with a woman. And this book does such a great job of describing sexuality and describing the struggle that a lot of the LGBT community goes through, trying to figure out who they are and finding out who they are and coming to terms with that when you've been raised in a home or raised in a community that's mainly heterosexual. From my own experience, my mother never talked about the LGBT community. Here we go. Yeah, there you go. She never talked about the LGBT community. I can remember there was a lesbian couple that moved across the street from us when I was little, and she, if I remember correctly, she just basically didn't say anything. She just said, "Oh, they're friends." Basically, when we ask, instead of telling us no, they're gay, and like explaining this, she just said they were friends. So it does a really good job at explaining that. And the book is written in the 1990s. Well, it was written in 1990, back when AIDS was a huge deal that they didn't understand and they didn't get. And it also talks about being on the down low, and that's the term that the book uses, in that I believe the community used back then, where a gay man would marry a woman and live the, I can't do the air quotations, but the straight life with said woman to cover up the fact that they're gay. And a lot of women were coming down with AIDS due to this. And it discussed AIDS and how devastating it was for the community in general. And particularly it talks about the African American community and how they view gay men and how they view AIDS and like view being on the down low. Raymond has to come to terms with that with his father, and his father tells him, "I didn't raise a sissy," and he basically stands for himself and say, "You didn't. You and Mom didn't do anything wrong. This is just who I am." And they kind of have come to terms with it, and it's honestly a beautiful, beautiful thing. I end up giving this book 5 stars. I can't rave enough. I love the way it discussed hard topics. For something written in the 90s, it does read like it was written in the 90s, but not in a way where you're like, ooh, this is problematic because it was written in the 90s. Like, no, it still could stand on its own today in 2021. It really could. It is his debut novel. I know from doing the research that he self-published it at first, and then I believe HarperCollins, I could be wrong, it's all in my review, I'll link it below, that's on my blog, picked it up and ran with it. Mommy, you cannot sleep and take a bottle. Hold on. I hear you. I know. Hold on. Mommy, you have to give it air. I know. There we go. Okay. I believe it was HarperCollins. Let me look. Does it tell me? It says Anchor Books. But I believe, because this copy was from the 90s, I believe HarperCollins picked up Anchor Books, but I could be wrong. But it was basically picked up mainstream and reprinted. It is the first of a trilogy. I don't remember what the second one's called, but it is the first of the trilogy, and so I will be reading the whole trilogy. I actually end up ordering, I placed an order for my birthday or for my birthday present to myself, and I ended up picking another one of his books up, not the second one in the series, because a friend of mine said that they were going to get that for me, so I didn't want to ruin their possible birthday present by buying it for myself. But I did pick up another one of his. I can't think of what it's called. But most of his books do revolve around bisexual or gay men. He was a gay man himself, an African American gay man. And so most of his books that is their main character. This book was just, I tabbed it to pieces. Hold on, let me see if I can prop a bottle up. Can I prop a bottle up? I can prop a bottle up. Mom life. Maybe not. You don't care. As long as your bottle doesn't leave your mouth, you're good. I was trying to see if I could find, I know I marked the pages. Hold on. There was a quote I wanted to read. No, that's not it. No, it's not either. I was finding this. Okay, so this book honestly tackled hard subjects really well. One of my favorite quotes is, maybe we should just have stayed out of bedrooms we weren't invited into. And with that quote, Raymond's talking about how he wanted to be a politician and how he wanted to help his community and help his community grow and give back to his community. And he felt like, because he had found this out later in life, and because he realized that he was a bisexual man who has had sexual encounters with men, that he couldn't do that because the Black community wouldn't accept him, and they would view him as less because he was gay. And he basically saying, like, why are we in someone else's bedroom? What does it matter what they do in their bedroom as long as it's two consenting adults? What does it matter? It does not affect my professionalism. It does not affect my ability to communicate. It does not affect my intelligence because it fell in love with a man, or because my sexual orientation does not define me as a person. And that honestly rang true. This book was just filled with such good quotes. I was trying to see, let's look. The title of this book was one that really hit home, because I feel like being in the closet is like having an invisible life, and that's where the title of the book comes from. He's talking to a good friend of his, and she tells him, if you didn't care what so many people thought, you would already have told them. The part of your life, she's like, you may never go to bed with another woman. That part of your life would no longer be invisible. So what she's saying is, maybe you aren't bisexual. Maybe you have been conditioned to be sexually attracted to women because it's more socially acceptable. And if you come out and said, I am a gay man, you would never sleep with a woman again. And that part of your life would no longer be invisible, and that makes you uncomfortable. And that conversation is a big one. Because, not saying I don't believe bisexuality exists. I know it does, and it's a valid sexuality. But I'm wondering, let's say it this way. I know in personal experience, I probably would have never slept with a man, probably even had my little one here, if it hadn't been for social pressure, for being told it's a boy and a girl supposed to be together. When my wife left, I started second thinking that, like, am I really gay? Like, do I really like women, or is this just something I fantasized in my head? And not that it's interesting in business how I ended up with my tiny one, but I think that might have played a role in it. Now that, when I sit back and think about it and look at it, that could have played a role in why I have a tiny little human. And I know for a really long time, in my late teens, early 20s, that was a thing. Like, I genuinely thought, maybe he's just not doing it right. Like, maybe he just doesn't know what he's doing. That's why I don't like it. No, that's not it at all. I like women. That's why it didn't work. And honestly, my best friend in the entire world, she watches all my videos. Hi, Jessica. She and I have had conversations about, obviously, our sex life and stuff like that. And when I hear her talk, I go, okay, yeah, definitely wasn't for me. Like, it doesn't matter what he did. It's never going to be for me because I like women. Like, that's just what it is. And with The Invisible Life, Alan Harris really explores that. Like, is Raymond really bisexual, or is it just because he's been socially conditioned to, believe that? And by the end of the book, I honestly believe, and from my point of view of this novel, Raymond does find that he is truly bisexual, and that's what, he is. I would have to look it up again. When I was a sophomore in college, there had been news about changing the LGBT community to something else. And basically, you would describe yourself as your gender, your romantic preference, and then your sexual preference, and then something else that started with the M, but I can't remember what it was. And to me, that made so much more sense, because while sexuality is on a spectrum, it definitely is. And I think your spectrum there's different varying possibilities that influence that spectrum. So basically, your gender is either, obviously you would say what your gender was if you're non-binary, all that, and a romantic preference. Do you see yourself falling in love with a man, a woman, or both? Or does it matter to you? And then your sexuality, who are you sexually attracted to? Do you want to sleep with men? Do you want to sleep with women? Do you want to sleep with both? Like, does it matter? And then there was one that started with the M, and I can't think of what it was. But it was so interesting. It was an interesting thought process, because it was like, okay, I identify as a lesbian. That's who I am. Or not really who I am, but that's, that is my sexuality. But romantically, could I see myself being with a man? No. I know I couldn't be romantically with a man. I like women. Like, I fall in love with women. That's where my feelings are. Sexually, could I see myself, am I sexually attracted to men? Maybe. Because back then I was really definitely questioning my sexuality and questioning myself. And it was like a maybe, but does that make me bi? Like, what does that define me as? And I think as humans, we want to label everything, and not everything has a label. So sexuality is so fluid that you fall into where you fall in. Now, in my late 20s, I'll be 27 in 8 days I'll be 27, and then in 11 days I'll have a 3-month-old. I can definitely say that I am sexually attracted to women, and I am romantically attracted to women. And I have no problem with that. That makes me happy. Does not define me in any way, honestly. But the talk of sexuality is such a interesting subject to me. And there's other things that play into your sexuality, into you choosing a partner. There are sexualities such as sapiosexual, which means that you are sexually attracted to intelligence. So the more intelligent someone is, the more intelligent they can speak and convey their ideas and talk to you. That's something you're attracted to. Demisexual, which is super interesting to me, because I am not demisexual at all, so I don't understand it, and I want to. If you're demisexual, leave a comment below, because I would love to talk to you and see how your brain works, because my brain doesn't work this way. But demisexual means that you have to have a emotional connection with someone before you can have sex with them. So demisexuals usually don't do one-night stands. They're just not good at it, because they don't have a emotional connection with that person. But sexuality is such a fluid thing, and in this particular book, it discusses it in a way that I think is easy to digest, not just for somebody who is a part of the LGBT community, but for someone who's never experienced the LGBT community, or never been a part of the LGBT community, or never met anyone from it. This book could definitely explain it in a way that would help them understand a little more of what we go through. If you've not picked up anything by him, I highly recommend it. I've only read one book, and I still highly recommend it. This was his debut, and usually writing gets better as it goes. Usually your debut is not your best, because it's your first book. You're just figuring out what you want your voice to sound like. You're figuring out who you want to be and what kind of author you are. So your first book usually it's okay, and then it gets better as you go. That's been true of every author I've ever read. So if this is his debut, the first thing he ever wrote, and it's this good, I can't wait to get the rest of them in my hands. I will probably purchase all of them because I want them all in my collection. Yeah, if you've not read The Invisible Life, I highly recommend. If you are interested in having a video about sexuality and like more of like random ones that you didn't know existed, or more about the spectrum, let me know. I Again, this is what I love psychology, and I love psychology of sexual behaviors. That stuff interests me. I took psychology classes for fun in college because I literally loved it so much, and it made my brain happy. I'd be more than happy to discuss it. And like, I'm obviously not a psychologist. I don't know everything. I don't claim to know everything. I don't claim to be 100% right. If I got anything wrong, please comment below and let me know. I'm always open to learning something new and learning something that I don't already know. But I'd be happy to make a video. Yeah, that's all I have to say about that. I know this is pretty random video and rambly. I have a tiny one that I'm also feeding throughout this video, and now is beautifully asleep in my arms, and it's probably going to be asleep for the rest of these videos because I got one more I want to film, and then I'm done. No, I have two more I want to film, and then I'm done. So yeah, but if you like my videos and you don't mind the rambling, please subscribe. I'd be more than happy to have you here. Bye, guys.